Hi, this is a video on the paper 2 exam. This is the reading. I've done a writing one as well. Have a look on the YouTube channel for the writing. So remember, the reading is non-fiction. So the exam time is 2 hours, 2.5 if you have extra time. So it's an hour for the reading, hour for the writing. Give yourself an extra 15 minutes if you've got the 25% extra time. So that means if you have 2 hours, if you start at 9:30, by 10:30 you need to start on the writing. If you've got the extra time, by 10:45 you need to start on the writing. The main way people do not pass the exam is by not finishing the exam. So you can't spend too long on the reading. Look at the clock, write down when you've got to move on, then move on. Okay, so the reading exam is non-fiction, so it will be based on a couple of newspaper articles or diary entries that are real. You have 2 extracts to read, one modern one and one from the 19th century. They will be on the same theme. So, for example, it might be someone going up in a hot air balloon, one from the 21st century and one from the 19th. Questions 1 and 2 will be on the modern text, 3 and 4 will be on the old-fashioned one, and 5 and 6 will be on both. Question 1, 3, 5 and 6 are find info. So what I mean by that is it's comprehension. So for example, question 1 might be how much time do the men spend skiing? You read through the text somewhere, it will say 16 miles or 16 days. Yeah. And then, so 1 and 3 are exactly the same. And then 5 and 6, you do exactly the same, but you're just going to put it into sentences. Question 2 and 4 are the how questions, where you're looking at writer's technique and effect. Okay, so if it's a low mark question, you're looking for about 5 minutes. If it's a high mark question, a 10 mark one, you're looking for about 13 or 14. So like I say, low mark questions, like the easy ones, 4 minutes. High mark ones, 15 minutes. So just you'll know if you spend a lot of time with it by the amount of marks. If it's a low mark, give yourself 5 minutes or so. High mark, give yourself 15. So good exam technique for the reading exam. Leave a 1-line gap between each quote. Start a new page for each question. You can go back and do more. Put quotation marks around every quote. If you do not make it clear what is a quote, you will not get a mark. This exam is literally, if you give quote, you'll get marks. If you don't give quote, you won't get marks. So really important, you don't do a massive explanation. When you do a quote, sometimes if it's a simple quote, don't explain it, just move on. But at the most, your explanation and quote together should be three lines on your page. Look at the clock before starting each question so you know when to move on. So again, this is what I mean. So just, yeah, give yourself a look. So if you're on the computer, it's easy. But if you're not on the computer, if you do it like this, it means that at the end of the exam, if you've got 10 minutes to go, you can go back and add more. And also, 1-line gap between each of the quote makes it really nice for the examiner, really simple. Also, you'll notice here that all of my quotes, which I've highlighted, really small explanation. It's all about quotes. They do not want a big explanation. It's much better to do small explanations about 10 quotes as opposed to a massive explanation about 2. All right, so quote to quote is the name of the game. So question 1, like I said, is comprehension. So you read an extract and you find the answer. So how much time did the men spend skiing each day? 16 hours, and then the other ones are easy as well. Okay, if you can't find an answer on question 1, A, B, or C, you leave it and you go back at the end. You can't waste time for 1 mark. You need to get to the high mark questions, and you also need to get to the writing exam, which is section B of the exam. Question 2 is a 10-mark question, so about 15, 14 minutes. As many quotes as you can, but it'd be good to get to 5 at least. Example question, this extract was about a really tough prison in America, and the question was, how does the writer try to show that prisoners live in extremely tough conditions? So you go through the extract, highlight anything that makes it sound tough, and then explain it. Why do we want a lot of quotes? Well, like I've said to my lesson, my group loads of time, quotes basically equals marks. These 2 people are just the same in terms of English ability. Person on the left, they did not have good exam technique and did not get enough quotes, while the person on the right did have great exam technique, loads of quotes. You'll notice if you pause the video, some of these are not even explained. Probably 4 of the quotes are not explained. But if it's an obvious quote, shovel in. If you need to explain it, explain it. So like I say, 5 to 10 quotes is ideal. Really, it's as many quotes as you can do in 13 or 14 minutes for a 10-mark question. Once your time is up on a question, move on. You must finish the exam. If you finish the exam, you've got a great chance of passing. If you don't finish the exam, you haven't. Okay, so the how question is all about why the writer has used certain words on purpose. So look at words and say why the writer is using them. So I tell my students to look at sort of adjectives and verbs. Okay, so you don't need to comment on them, but say for example, I said the man spoke to someone. You can't really say much about it. But if I change the word spoke to screamed, it would tell you something about the character. So you need to use a range of quotes from the beginning, middle, and end of the extract. So this would get you marked down because you're not showing the examiner you've read the whole extract, but this is what we would like you to do. So it doesn't literally have to be one every paragraph, but at least take some from the end of the extract. On this question, be a human dictionary, pick out certain words and say what they mean. So say, for example, the question was, how does the writer show the climber's injury? And the quote was, he shattered his leg. So what does that think about? The writer could have put, he hurt his leg, he broke his leg. They've chosen to use the emotive verb shattered, it's a powerful verb. What does it mean? So what's Beyonce doing here? If we looked it up in a dictionary, it would literally say broken into many small pieces, impaired or destroyed. So be a human dictionary. All you need to do now is really put what the definition is into a sentence. So the writer shows his injury with the quote, shattered tells me his leg has been destroyed and broken into many pieces. So I've highlighted his injury because that's to do with the question. Yeah. So always in your PEE, as a sentence starter, bring the question in. My red is my quote, and then my blue is basically the connotations of shattered. Well, shattered means his leg is broken into many pieces. Okay, so we go back to that extract about the jail, the tough prison. How does the writer show that prisoners live in extremely tough conditions? The quote is, they sleep on concrete slabs topped with thin mattresses. So the writer could have put, they sleep on slabs with mattresses. They haven't. They've chosen to put concrete. They've chosen to put thin because they're trying to give an effect to the reader. So the effect to the reader is, it's probably very painful sleeping. Get no comfort. So I've put, the writer shows the tough conditions with the men sleeping on concrete beds with thin mattresses, which must be very uncomfortable and hard to sleep on. So my red is my question, my light blue is my quote, and my green is explaining why that quote proves the question. So the one we looked at in my lessons was about Cole Pilkington from An Idiot Abroad going to the pyramids. The question was, how does the writer show Cole didn't enjoy his visit to the pyramids? So we went through the extract and we tried to find loads of different things. Okay, so I've taken quotes from all over the extract. So one of the things Cole said was, it was quite eerie. So again, be a human dictionary. What does eerie mean? Well, it means strange, unsettling, scary. So I've put, the writer shows Cole didn't enjoy his visit with the quote, it was quite eerie. This tells the reader Cole found the experience strange and frightening. So again, my yellow, I'm linking back to the question. My green is my quote, and my blue is explaining, be a human dictionary. What does that word mean? Another thing Cole said about why he didn't enjoy it, he said it was roasting in there already. So again, what does roasting mean? It's a very British expression, but it basically means being far too hot, doesn't it? So I put, the writer shows Cole didn't enjoy his visit with the quote, it was roasting. This tells the reader Cole found the pyramids unbelievably hot. Again, yellow is my question, going back to the question, green is my quote, and my blue is explaining why my quote shows Cole didn't enjoy his visit. Another thing he said was that he was in like a tomb and he said there was no fire escape. So why is Cole bothered saying there's no fire escapes? Well, it's probably meaning that he probably thinks it's dangerous. So I've put, the writer shows Cole didn't enjoy his visit with the quote, there are no fire escapes. This tells the reader Cole found the pyramids dangerous. There was nowhere to run if there was an emergency. So I've added a second sentence there. I didn't need to, would have got a mark anyway. But again, yellow, I'm linking to the question, green, my quote, blue, explaining why that quote proves Cole didn't enjoy it. Last one he says is, I had to squeeze through a small gap. He basically found the space narrow and restricting. Okay, so question 3 is exactly the same as question 1, but it's on the other extract. So this question here, A, what animal does Scott have on the expedition? You read through the extract, somewhere it will say horses. You can literally put horses. Question 4 is exactly the same as question 2, but you probably have to agree with the question. So this extract was about a guy who was climbing this sort of ridge, but he was a free soloist, so he was doing it with no rope. So it says, the writer portrays Alex Honnold as a talented climber. How far do you agree with this view? It's 10 marks, so you're looking for over 5 quotes, or as many as you can do in 13 minutes. It's basically the same as question 2, about prisons. The only difference is you must agree with the question. Okay, so you need to start off a little sentence with, I agree Alex is a talented climber, then go through it and see if you can find 4 or 5 quotes that show Alex is a talented climber. So one of the, again, adjective here, unique, be a human dictionary. What does unique mean? Well, it basically means someone who's special, someone who's one of a kind. So I put, Remember, you need to put I agree. He is shown to be talented with the quote unique ability. This tells the reader he is one of a kind. No other climber has the skills that Alex has. So again, my yellow, I'm linking back to the question. Green is my quote, and my blue is explaining why my quote proves Alex is talented. He went 3,000 foot without using ropes. So I put he's shown to be talented with the quote 3,000 foot without using ropes. Alex is so skilled he doesn't need any safety equipment in case he makes a mistake. So again, yellow is my question, green is my quote, blue is explaining why my quote proves Alex is talented. It was the greatest feat in the history of the sport. So think about what greatest means. It means the best, and in the history it means he's not just the best in 2022, he's the best of all time. So he's shown to be talented with the quote greatest in history. This tells the reader that his climb is the best achievement since people started climbing. Again, yellow is my question, green is my quote, blue is my explanation. Don't worry if you sound really boring and robotic with your sentence starters. They don't care. That's what the writing exam is for, being really creative. The reading is just to be methodical and talk about the quotes. Okay, I'm going to move on. Question 5 then. Okay, so it's comprehension. So it's just like question 1 and 3. The only difference is it's on both texts. Okay, so for example, this question here is explain what we learned about the food that different species of sharks eat. So if you had 2 extracts about sharks, find 2 quotes from each that tell you what they eat. Okay, so question 5, it's 4 minutes, around 4 marks. It's the same as question 1 and 3, but it's for both texts. The only difference is you put it into sentences. This means you need to pick out 2 quotes from both texts. You don't need to compare, so you don't need to say in extract 1 it says this. However, in B it says this. You don't need to do that. And you don't need PEs. It's a 4-mark question. Do not waste time picking out a quote and saying this suggests. You won't get any marks for it. You don't need to do it. So be clear which text you're talking about. So an easy way of doing this is using the people's surnames. So this question here, explain what we learn about the food Scott and Fogel took with them on their trips to the South Pole. So just use their names. Put Scott, put Fogel, underline it. Okay, so like I say, this extract was about 2 people going to the South Pole. The question is, explain what we learn about the food. So you'd go through each extract, so 2 extracts, it's 4 marks, so you'd find 2 quotes from each. Okay, so literally I've gone through the extract, I've highlighted a few things they say. I've put Fogel, I've underlined it, I've put he had lots of food, salami, chocolate, cheese and chicken, spaghetti bolognese. Then I go through the second extract and see what they say about food. So I've put he had meat, biscuits and a thin breakfast. Remember, I need quote marks around my quotation to show it's from the text. So again, I need 2 quotes from both. I've got 2 texts from both, so I would get 4 out of 4. All the examiner will do is mark the quotes. You don't need to explain. Okay, question 6 is exactly the same as question 5, but you need more quotes. So this one's out of 10. The question's worth 10 marks. This means instead of picking 2 quotes from each, you need 4 or 5 quotes from both texts. You don't need to compare in this question. No PEs needed, okay? I know on this question it says compare. If you want to get 10 out of 10, maybe compare. But it's the last question in the exam. We're going to be struggling. So just to get 8 out of 10, just give me quotes from each. You don't need to compare. Okay. We're going to structure it just like the other one we just did. So this extract was about 2 different people doing a tightrope across a waterfall, the Niagara Falls. And the question is, give me 4 or 5 quotes from each to show what they did during the crossing. Again, just use their surnames for structure. So you'd go through both texts, highlight anything about what they did. Always focus on the question. So it's not about what they did before or did after. It's not about what the crowd are doing. It's what those people did during the crossing. So for example, one of them says Blondin did a back somersault. I would highlight that as one of my answers. So again, exactly the same structure as question 5. Put their name, underline it, and then put what they did. So during the crossing, Wallander did a number of things. He gave an interview. He was waving at people. He ran the last steps. Finally, he took his hand off the balance bar and waved. But Blondin, during the crossing, Blondin did a number of things. He seated on the wire. He laid a full bath on his back. He did a back somersault. Finally, he took a picture of the people in the shore. If you just put quotes in these bullet points, you will not get marks. They're called unabridged quotes. Give me at least a sentence starter to describe your quote a little bit. But again, you don't need to compare and you don't need to talk about this suggests or anything like that. Just give me the quotes. Okay, final tips for the reading then. Time manage. When your time is up in the question, move on. Keep looking at the clock. 3 or 4 marks, 4 or 5 minutes. 10 marks, 13 to 15 minutes. Keep your eye on the clock throughout the exam and before you start each new question. leaving a one-line gap between all PE so it's clear. There's no need to say a word is a verb and noun and adjective. You won't get marked for it. You might even get marked down for it if you get it wrong. If you run out of time on a 10-mark question, don't do a PE, just put a quote in and don't explain it, and finish all questions. Okay, hopefully that's been of some use for you, and good luck in the exam.